Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Garth Brooks fan club, aka Down to Hell. That's an in-joke for anyone who was watching the show last week. We may circle back on the Mighty G this week, but Garth Brooks is not our concern at the moment, because we have a special guest with us who I hate to disappoint you, but is not Garth Brooks. Now, we have been publicising this guest as Piggy D for all of the last week or so, but I'm going to introduce him as Mr. Matt Montgomery. Welcome aboard,
Hey.
sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. A lot of people are very excited to have you with us. Now, Piggy D is really a Rob Zombie like stage name, right? Stage persona.
Well, I guess the first thing it is unfortunate, but it's actually been around since I was about 17 years old. I was in a hardcore band in Texas, and it's the slogan of the band was Burly Pig Rock, and
Burly
since
Pig
the band was called Spunk, and I was the youngest member of the band, and as an initiation, I fell asleep in the van on the way to my first show with the band. In fact, I missed my high school prom to play the show in Dallas, and I fell asleep in the van with my shirt off, and I woke up and they had written in Sharpie Piglet on my chest, and they made me play the show with my shirt off.
Oh.
And the name just stuck, and there was so many Matts. It was a popular name in the 70s, I guess, Bible name. And it just stuck, and I got stuck with it it's like a wart of a name. I can't get rid of it. So when I joined the zombie band, he perpetuated its use. So here we are at 46 with a name like Piggy D.
Well, you are Matt Montgomery, as far as we're concerned tonight. Anyway.
Wait till your child becomes aware of that. That's all the fun starts.
Then you'll be in trouble.
What?
Yeah.
And it starts all over again, right?
Yeah. I would imagine it does. So that name stuck with you through the bands that you were involved with prior to Wednesday 13, and you did mention to me a certain band you were in the 90s with interesting dressing taste, I believe.
So that's actually where the D came from. That band was called the She Demons. We took our name after the old black and white movie, The She Demons. And we just sang. It was a band that was kind of art rock, but we really just sang songs about Roger Corman movies. And everyone took the last name Demon, kind of like the Ramones. So that's where the D came from, which works out because my middle name is David. So people, I used to say it stood for Demon. Now I just say it stands for David. They're like, Piggy David? That's a horrible name. So I've actually made the whole situation worse by telling that. So,
yeah.
But that's mystery solved.
Okay.
For the D.
But am I misremembering this, because I don't trust my memory, but I'm sure I've seen images of you from being on stage in the zombie band with like a demon pig makeup. That wasn't just artwork that I'm remembering. Those were.
No, yeah, I'm a dollar store Lon Chaney. I have a lot of masks and faces, and I like to keep the audience guessing. I like that every 3 years I like them to go, they get a new bass player because the new guy's better than the last guy. And it's just when I had long hair, everyone thought I was a girl. So which was also, it kind of worked to my advantage.
I love long hair personally.
Me too.
Thanks, David. I appreciate that. I like to keep it. I like to keep it fresh. Change it up.
I like to change it up a bit as well. Time to time. Surprise people, Hey, I'm blonde today. Didn't you notice? And I'm always intrigued by the process of adopting personas. Obviously, that's part and parcel of acting, and particularly in terms of mask work as an actor. But I always wonder how that works in relation to going on stage to play, where the relationship to an audience is very different. It's very immediate. It's on the hoof, and you've got to hold the guitar and play it while you're wearing a mask and makeup or whatever. How complicated does that get? Where does it get in the way of the performance?
Well, thankfully, it hasn't gotten in the way. I think I've pushed it to the limits a few times. I had a tech one time that had worked for Lady Gaga, and he said I had one more costume change than Lady Gaga, which I took to the bank and deposited immediately. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Now you're aiming for Cher, right?
I'm working on Cher. I'm coming for you. The zombie band rehearses so much, just the music. I've never been in a band that practiced more than that band, and it's been that way the whole time I've been in the band. We rehearse so much. So by the time we get to the stage, I'm literally sometimes playing songs with one hand. It's what's made. I mean, I don't like patting ourselves on the back, but I do think it's something that's kind of perpetuated us sticking around as a headline band for some years, because the show's really tight. So when we add costumes and stuff to it, we're so rehearsed musically that stuff just really becomes icing. If I was trying to change costumes and what bass am I playing, it would be disastrous.
Right.
Because it's such a fast-paced show and it really doesn't stop. So whatever gags you're going to come up with, you're going to do on stage, have to kind of fit seamlessly into the music. Comes first. We want to be a badass band first, and then the rest is kind of just sprinkles.
And the process prior to that, I mean, when the phone rings and Rob says we're in the studio on Monday, I'm paraphrasing, I have no idea how this process develops, but if the phone rings and it's Rob and he says new album in the studio Monday, how does that process unravel? Do you rehearse a lot prior to recording, or do you go into the studio and put the albums together fairly freshly and then rehearse the hell out of it before going out on the road? What is that?
It's gone through a lot of changes. When I first joined the band, we were in the studio as a band quite a bit. Everybody was tracking live, and as people started like spending other time in other states, and we kind of started changing up our locations, it became more of file sharing, and as technology's caught up with all of that, now I'll get sketches of songs for a few weeks before I would have to go into a studio, so I have time to sit down and kind of work out my parts and what I'm going to do, and everybody kind of gets that time. And then so for this year we spent probably a few weeks just learning the new record in a room together from front to back, so we can play the whole thing. And if we feel like changing the setup on any given night, we can, and we can drop stuff in, and everybody's kind of up to speed and ready to go. So again, it comes down to preparation is everything, as you well know.
Well, it helps.
Yeah, it really does.
And does Rob bring the lyrics and you create the music to the song, or does he already have a demo and a clear idea in his own mind of how he wants this track to sound?
That process has also changed over the years. Whereas it used to be, everybody get in a room and we throw riffs in a hat, basically, and just pick stuff out and jam it. And now he's very much, as we've talked about before, but like he's almost like a musical painter now. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen his artwork, but he's a pretty amazing artist with different mediums. And he kind of paints the music. I mean, he's writing his own lyrics, obviously, but he's really directing the music and the ebb and flow of all of it, just like his films, just like as if he was picking up, if his colors were different instruments and he's putting them on a canvas, it's literally the same thing. And it's pretty fantastic to hear something in a sketch form and then hear something done and mastered and about ready to come out. You're like, wow, it's a pretty fantastic process to witness, which is I think is also a testament to why he's still making records, because they're still interesting.
Sure. And that how much then does that process change from when you're done in the studio, so to speak, to what you hear when the album comes out? Because he very much is creating like sound collages. There's a lot of spoken word and a lot of additional sound and soundscape that is going onto the tracks, which I'm assuming Rob is adding in post. I don't know how much the rest of the band has to do with that. I mean, particularly the last album, Lunar Injection. I can't remember all of Rob's full titles.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that element of it, because the theatrical element, which has always been so much to the fore with Rob's work, is there on the record as well. But is that all being added in post?
Sometimes it is, and sometimes the weird kind of ear candy stuff is like the impetus for the song. So again, this as an example, this last record that we put out, that record, I think I played on that record maybe 2.5 years before it came out. And every time we would get together and play shows, we would listen to the latest versions of the songs, and they changed, and they changed. And he kind of, he'd live with something for 6 months, and then we wouldn't see each other, and then all of a sudden we're together again, and we're listening to the current versions of the songs, and we're like, oh, that's new. Oh, that's new. Oh, wow, there's this weird keyboard thing and a sample and a clip from something. And so he's kind of always sculpting it. And I think, as most artists do, it's a certain point you just have to, as Steph can attest to this, you have to call something done at a certain point, because otherwise
process,
otherwise you're just going to sit there and keep sculpting it until you maybe taken some of the life out of it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did Da Vinci say a work of art is never finished, it's only abandoned?
Abandoned, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, totally. It's
take me all the way back. I'm always intrigued by this, especially I think with musicians, and people in general. When does music first impinge on Matt's consciousness, and what is that, if you recall at all?
I consider myself to be incredibly fortunate from a musical education standpoint. I had an older brother who was into Kiss and Van Halen and Blue Oyster Cult and Journey. I mean, all what's considered now classic rock. But those were the posters on his walls, and he had a drum set next door to me. And there's some years between us. He's quite a bit older. So I had those records. My parents loved gospel music, old country music, and show tunes. So, which I quickly became obsessed with. I was the only 7-year-old on my street trying to put together a dollar store production of Fiddler on the Roof. I wasn't very convincing. The reviews were horrible. No one showed up. But my version of If I Were a Rich Man with the hair taped to my face was something to see. There might be a photo somewhere. And then I loved score music. I loved my first movie I saw was Star Wars, and I had the double vinyl of John Williams' score. So that was like that was the first record someone put in my hands, and that just unlocked my brain. I'm so glad it wasn't anything else, honestly, because it just gave me, and still does, endless hours of listening enjoyment, and instrumental, composed music like that really unlocked my brain in a really cool way. So I like I said, I consider myself pretty fortunate to have had all of that. It was kind of a sampler platter of music. And then as I got older, I found things that, my parents and my brother weren't listening to. So, but I think that had a lot to do with it.
I can play this game with you, I think, which I like to. It gets harder these days because nobody buys shit anymore. Everybody streams everything. But if you can remember the first single and the first album that you bought with your own money, that you went into a record store with your own money and bought, and you have to be honest.
The first single I got was "Eye of the Tiger" by Survivor.
Nice.
Yeah, I loved Rocky.
Yes.
On 45, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think the first 12-inch I got was the Ghostbusters soundtrack.
Nice. Nice. That's good.
Yeah, with like the Bus Boys and stuff on it. So yeah, I still love film soundtracks. I just I love music that's specifically created for films. I love that. How about you? What was your?
Are you into musicals, not just music scores?
Huge into musicals. We had all the Rodgers and Hammerstein records. My Fair Lady, Music Man, South Pacific, Oklahoma, all of that stuff. I am all about it. All about it. If I could have, I got roped into band early on, horn playing and stuff like that when I was in junior high. But had I spent more time on the theater side, I probably would have become
in the school band?
Busy with. Yeah, I was a marching band guy. But I always wanted to be on stage. I always wanted to do musical theater. I was obsessed with it when I was a kid.
And you have.
Yes.
Now I have. What about you?
I betray my age and my geographical origins. I was born in Liverpool, and I was, I guess, 7 turning 8 when Love Me Do charted. So I'm just discovering that pop music exists at all, precisely the point that the Beatles and My City are going to define it for the next several years. So
unbelievable.
Santa dropped the Twist and Shout EP on me for Christmas 1963.
Wow.
And then I can't even remember what it was, be 63 or 64, I can't remember, probably with Christmas or birthday money. If anybody's on the chat of a certain age from Liverpool, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I vividly remember walking into Rushworth's and Draper's with my 6 shillings and 8pence in my hand, and very proudly going to the counter and announcing, "Could I have She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah by the Beatles, please?" Like I was the first person in the universe to ask them that.
Right.
And the first album I bought with my own money, I stood in a line on the day of the album's release outside a record store on Allerton Road in Liverpool, having heard not a note of music off it, to buy the Beatles' White Album.
Wow.
So that which is what, 5 years later, is it 60? Where are we? 68. The White Album was released, which remains my favorite album to this day.
All-time favorite album?
Yes.
Really?
Never really discussed that.
No,
Wow.
I think so.
That was my next question. Was what's your favorite Beatles record? But that kind of trumps all records ever recorded.
It is.
Oh.
I think it's just. I mean, it's a close run thing, but it's true of all the Beatles music, I think. But especially with that album, I never ever tire of it. God knows I've given it enough and them enough opportunity to to get a little stale in my ears. Yes. For what Jesus Christ, we're always 60 years now coming up for everything. And it's never happened.
They were really onto something, those Beatles guys.
They weren't half bad, and the extent to which they continue to influence is amazing. You continue to hear new people will cite this influence, that influence, but the frequency with which the Beatles comes up, it just amazes me.
I think it's more rare to find a band who hasn't been influenced by them in some way.
Right. I mean, I guess it's like being influenced by Mozart or Bach or something. They're kind of inescapable in a way, I suppose. But
Steph, what about you? I have a feeling your first record was extraordinarily cool.
Well,
you're saying mine wasn't?
Tough because
no, yours is cool too. But
we're around the same age, you and I. So you may remember the well, and you're American, so you may remember the Columbia House thing.
Of course.
Where it was an ad in the magazine or something. How did it work? You pay a penny now, and you get 12 albums.
Yeah.
But you eventually have to pay the full price of one album. I still don't know how that worked, but
I still owe them money.
Yeah, my mother would do it and then never pay them, So because COD, see a cash on delivery, knowing damn well you're not gonna pay for it when it shows up.
You had to run and hide when the
it's
Columbia
like when the paperboy came to collect. You close the door and turn the light out and duck, hide from the paperboy.
The Columbia House cops came knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Right?
So she
We know
let me
you're in
pick
there.
out a bunch, and I picked out Fleetwood Mac, Tango in the Night.
Wow.
So I would have been 8, 9, I think. So Fleetwood Mac, Falco, who I still love.
Wow.
Rock Me
Amadeus, right?
I love Falco. Sorry. Not sorry.
My wife loves Falco too. Loves Falco.
Much love.
Yeah.
And Aretha Franklin Greatest Hits, because my dad loved Blues Brothers, and I would watch Blues Brothers with him, so I was
of course.
with Aretha Franklin at that age already. So it was a best of, and then the newer Aretha Franklin, which was Who's Zoomin' Who, I think it was.
With Pink Cadillac on it?
Yes. That's the one where Annie Lennox did a duet.
Right.
A David Lee Roth solo album. Eat 'em and
Ooh!
Smile.
Yeah!
A new edition.
Wow!
I think that's it. Yeah. So that was my first, the ones that I chose. But my mom and dad had a decent record collection. My mom attended bar, so she got all the 45s that came out of the jukebox and would bring them home.
Yeah. So you didn't need to buy.
We did need to buy them. Yeah. We had stacks of them. And my dad was a drummer in a band, and he was into doo-wop.
Cut a record, right?
He did. Yeah, they did. Never really went anywhere, but
was he a drummer in a doo-wop band?
I don't know. It was sort of, yeah. Not.
Wow.
I don't know what you would have considered them back then. Not straight up doo-wop, but that's where I got my appreciation for doo-wop music, was from my dad. And my mom listened to old country, but I didn't appreciate it at the time, and I appreciate it now. So I had access to a lot of albums. And I can't remember the first album that I actually consciously went to a record store and bought with my own money may have been a Digital Underground cassette.
Cassette, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And
A
it had
C90.
it had the the label on it because it was filthy, so it had the
Yep.
And there was like 12. I went in and they let me buy it, and it was so exciting.
It was so exciting.
Well, that's a little young for the Humpty Hump.
I know.
The thing I always remember as well, because albums were so damn expensive when I was young, and I remember buying. I had to rely on the money I made from my paper route, and I remember buying what's maybe or certainly one of my second favorite albums of all time, which is the Floyd's I'm a Gummer.
Oh wow!
And I still the live album of I'm a Gummer I think is just magnificent. It's the high watermark of English prog rock before it even got started. But it was it was 2 guineas, I think, £2 and 2 shillings, and it was an awful lot of money to be parting with. But in the days of albums, you'd just go into record stores and just flip through the albums, and it was like being in an art gallery. You'd keep coming back to like this. What's this album with the white cover with a slightly overripe banana on it? What the Velvet Underground? What the hell is that? And none of this really, apart from John Peel's show, none of this really was on mainstream radio. So I'm looking at all these albums, and I don't know who the bands are, and I don't know what it sounds like. I'm not sure when it stopped, but you could. They'd only tolerate this with kids to a degree, but they had the little sound booths in the store, and you could take the record to them and say, "Could you play this, please?" And then you'd go into your little booth, and there'd be little tinny speakers up on the wall.
We had Camelot in the 80s and 90s, Camelot music. And
right.
I was thinking about this the other day. My dad always going to the record stores, and he always took me. And that's, I found a lot of music that way. You just, that looks like an interesting cover. That must, okay, that must be interesting. And you just buy it, completely. Blindly, definitely just buy it because it looked cool, and sometimes you'd be pleasantly surprised by what you'd find. And
yes, that was for me with the Floyd. I'd see Emily play at Knock My Socks Off when that came out as a single, but it was the cover art. It's very early Hypnosis, I think, the cover art of I'm a Gummer. Both on the front with the repeating image in the mirror, the band changing places, but then also on the back where they're on some disused airfield somewhere, and they've got all the equipment from the smallest pieces of the drum kit all the way back to the giant stacks, laid out in a perfectly symmetrical V. And I can remember just staring at these images, and I think to no small extent I bought I'm a Gummer on the basis of the artwork.
Your parents must have been pretty cool, not only to give you a Beatles record for Christmas, but what were they listening to?
Did your dad even listen to music?
Not really. Okay. The Black and White Minstrel Show. Now, this is not a thing to be particularly proud of. This was blackface. On mainstream British television every week. My parents loved it and watched it, and I did too. And I guess I encountered all those Stephen Foster songs and the Countdown Races and those kind of things, which I enjoyed, not being at all aware of the cultural implications of what I was watching. Kathleen
That's
Ferrier,
really interesting.
Who's was a wonderful alto opera singer, and she also wrote folk songs. Her singing of Blow the Wind Southerly remains one of my favorite songs of all time. She was around. We were quite a religious family, so I was at church regularly, so church music was in my ears from very, very early on. But they themselves, in terms of their listening, nothing like as broad a palette as you and Steph had. When I went to my grandfather's, I encountered Jim Reeves for the first time and just completely fell in love with his voice, and never fallen out of love with him. Though my grandfather was a Scottish Baptist minister, so it was only Jim Reeves' gospel that he had. But
what's your
fine
favorite
with
album,
me.
Matt, of all time?
Of all time, it's a weird one, and it's some. Well, there's two, and it's kind of one's they're both old now, but as we've talked about our favorite Beatles before, George Harrison's my favorite Beatle, and All Things Must Pass is probably my favorite record ever. I know every drum beat front to back of it. And I was in the 90s, and I love punk rock, and I love Husker Du and bands like the Replacements, and I love Bob Mould. Bob Mould had a band called Sugar and made a record called Copper Blue, which is a tie for the George Harrison record for my favorite record. So it's kind of two weird picks, but
yeah. Do we want to do some questions? Or do we want to do a giveaway, David?
Yeah, we're gonna do a giveaway really quick.
Have we got questions coming up on the
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, we've got some questions.
Let's not ignore people.
So here's
Go
our
ahead,
new
David.
little screen. You can see it on your laptop, your Macintosh Apple. So we're gonna give away. Let's start with the Hands of Death shirt. Whoever gives 3 subs is going to win this shirt. And we already had Nathan gift 5. We had.
Why don't I have one of these? Can I buy subs to my own show? Get that?
Oh, absolutely. Josh did 5 subs. So Cope and Core's right there. There's 5. So Cope and Core's Hands of Death tee. Very nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, very cool designs.
Grab some questions off the chat.
Josh has a question.
He does.
I have a question. I love you guys.
That's not a question. That's a statement.
we love you too.
We love you too, Josh. No, I won't kiss him on the mouth.
I actually saw a really good question in there.
I could, but I can't reach from here.
But I lose the chat here. I did see somebody ask what your favorite book was, which I always think that's a good question.
My favorite book?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a tough one. Jesus.
That's a really tough one.
Yeah. It's a good one, though.
Let's see. You can usually tell by the one you've got 10 copies of, right? I'm looking now. Well, as we're both literature nerds, I had an English teacher in high school. This was so cool. We walked into the classroom one day, and all the lights were out, except for the overhead lamp. We had a overhead projector that they would use on the walls with transparency. That was the only light in the room. And he took chalk and he shaded all of the chalkboards around the classroom and turned everything like white, but the lights were out. And he had a cassette of Vincent Price reading House of Usher.
Oh my God.
And that was my introduction to Poe. And I became a fanatic, and I think I've got 20 collected Poe books and of various printings. We were talking about collecting the other day, and I said I've started collecting early Dickens stuff, and just illustration, sets of illustrations you don't have, and so I'm still buying books every week, that of stories I already have, but I don't have that edition of it. So I would say Poe is probably a number one.
Favorite Poe story?
Probably Telltale Heart.
Yep.
Maybe.
That's mine.
Black Cat for me.
A 3 for Telltale.
Really?
Okay.
Wow. What about you?
I have a cat named Pluto, but she has both eyes. Yeah,
Steph
Black Cat.
Steph has been obsessed with Poe since you were in high school.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I mean I think that's where everybody sort of starts with it, with the Raven of Telltale Heart, and you either you either become obsessed or it just, passes you by. So
Didn't you just kind of
Right.
find him in the library
I
too?
used to
And...
steal. I would steal the Poe collections
Yes.
out of the school library. Still have them.
Yes.
I have some Poe library books too. I still have them. Yeah. Yep. Guilty.
But as far as favorite book, I don't know that I like nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. I like to read things like the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, shit like that,
Mm-hmm.
And true crime, tons of true crime books. So I think I could pick just one, but Brian Masters, I would say, is probably one of my favorite authors.
He wrote a brilliant book about Dennis Nielsen, the English.
Killing for Company.
Called Killing for Company, which is really
Shrine
good.
of Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
You both true crime? Doug, you like true crime stuff too?
I do, to nothing like the extent that Steph does. I mean, you have no idea. She listens to everything.
Yeah.
She walks. I used to joke that every time she walked past me, because now it's Bluetooth headphones,
Yeah.
but then it would just be her phone in her pocket, and every time she drifted past me in the house somewhere, I'd hear. Then detectives were startled when a phone call blew the case wide open.
It was the perfect marriage until it wasn't.
She was found face down in a pool of blood.
Yeah,
And this would be sort of drifting around the house
following me. Yeah.
through the day.
Yeah, and I get kind of salty when Netflix will come out with a new special on somebody that I've been reading about for 20 years, and hey, did you ever hear this Dennis Nielsen? Yeah, I've heard Dennis Nielsen. Everyone
Knows
sort
it
of
all.
piles on,
Well, what's your favourite Dickens, Matt? Since we both share a love of he, we should stop putting each other on the spot like this.
Yeah, no, it's good though.
Where were you
Pressure.
on the night of the 25th?
Well, I just reread Bleak House because that's the latest one I got, and I really enjoyed it. To pick a favorite, yeah.
The opening chapter of Bleak House is one of my favourite pieces of Dickens. It's just when
it's
he
so
hits
good.
his straps like that. It's an amazing novel because in an awful lot of ways, it's a long novel in which not really very much happens.
Right.
Which is true of another favourite novel of mine, which is Love in the Time of Cholera.
Right.
It's an amazing, like every sentence in that novel is a novel in itself, and yet overall, what's the novel about? I don't know really. It's hard to summarize it. And Bleak House falls into that. Plus, the heroine goes blind.
It's a good
Right.
one.
Yeah. I have another book. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead. No, we were talking about Shakespeare the other day, and I wondered what your introduction to Shakespeare was.
Oh God, I don't think I can even remember that. I really don't think I can.
Didn't they start you at birth in the UK on Shakespeare?
Shakespeare.
Yeah. You come out, they hand you a thick book, and they're like, "Here you go, kid."
I can't remember a time when I wasn't aware of Shakespeare. Seeing him on TV, I was older, going to see him in the theatre, reading him, learning bits, reciting them to myself, reading aloud, which is what I've always done. I honestly, I don't remember the moment at which, ooh, Shakespeare. I mean, my dad quoted him a lot, which confused me. I didn't understand. He quoted the Bible, the Gettysburg Address, and
So
Shakespeare.
random.
But he he and I didn't have the greatest relationship by any means, but he did have a library where I found Dickens, Poe, and Stevenson, and a lot of the writers who stayed with me, and a lot of that comes from him. And you know, I mean, Shakespeare is God.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a good question.
My introduction was weird. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I keep cutting across you.
You do.
I do. Oh, I think
Oh,
there's
no,
a slight delay, so
I think
it's
we
not
do have
helping
a slight
matters,
delay.
Yeah. But I want Matt to finish.
Yeah. I saw the Orson Welles film of Othello when I was too young to realize what was going on, but I was so taken with the visuals of it that by the time I was maybe junior high school. So when we studied Shakespeare, I think we watched the Olivia Hussey Romeo and Juliet in class. And I was like, oh, this is the guy. And then I kind of went back, and that was
Franco Zeffirelli.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful movie. It's gorgeous.
It really is. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love all the Orson Welles Shakespeare adaptations. Pretty extraordinary, because I mean, he given that he had, you know, Citizen Kane in the back catalogue. I mean, he was working most of the time as an underground filmmaker. You know, he'd scrabble a bit of money together and shoot 3 scenes here, and then 6 months later he'd shoot another 3 scenes, and then, you know, try to put the whole thing together. But you know, I mean, and the BBC was always doing Shakespeare, so I was probably just, you know, running across bits and pieces of it here and there.
Yeah. Wow.
Ready for question?
Sure.
I think this is a good one.
Sure.
I'm assuming this is Sol Morte. What are your views of music and horror movies? Which film soundtracks sent shivers down your spine? That's
Wow. Is that just for me or for both of us?
I'd say both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead if you think of something. I mean, I've got so much going on in my head.
Well, I think sometimes, you know, it either works or it's completely intrusive.
Yes.
You know.
Well, I think for without question, for people of my age, Psycho is a litmus test, and you know, the shower scene is hard to get past. For that's probably the first time that I would consciously be aware of music being an element deliberately used to terrify you. In a movie. Lots of examples subsequently. I think the John Carpenter's Halloween theme is often imitated, never surpassed. I think the score of The Omen is wonderful.
Oh yeah.
I love the score of Bride of Frankenstein, and especially at the end when they're creating Elsa, and that's I think that's is it Franz Waxman who does that score? Is it? I can't remember. I don't think that's right, but it's actually apparently a Hawaiian lullaby. That lilting music when they've got the thing right up on the roof with the lightning strikes going on.
Oh, so dreamy. Yeah, I love it.
Beautiful. It's got nothing to do with what you're watching, and that's what makes it so
Amityville scares me. Just the soundtrack alone makes me feel very uneasy.
Right.
I completely agree. Well, speaking of Orson Welles, he employed Bernard Herrmann quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they did some amazing stuff together. Or I know Orson was a gigantic appreciator of Herrmann's work and ear. But I remember seeing one of the first horror images I remember seeing, aside from the first Frankenstein, was the scene in Psycho when Vera Miles finds Mother in the basement with the light swinging. I mean, that's just burned into my brain. I remember my brother babysitting me, and that was on television, and I was just like, what the hell is this? But I was
Right.
thinking about this earlier. The Chris Young's score for Hellraiser was so effective. So effective. And I don't feel like it gets... I mean, maybe amongst our community, they're celebrating it more than I hear. But, like, that movie, without that music, is a different movie.
All the time.
That-
I say that's 50%
right?
of the movie.
No question. And it's 50%
It
of
added-
why the movie isn't aging. And you know that originally it was going to be a soundtrack by a band called Coil, who were an 80s band. And it's very kind of it's very deep, heavy, bassy synth keyboard music, and it wouldn't have been wrong for the movie at all. It wouldn't have been wrong. Clive liked it very much, but it would have dated the movie like hell, and no pun intended. And Chris Young's score doesn't date at all.
That is so true.
And he betters himself. He outdoes himself on Hellbound, I think.
I agree.
Brilliant.
I agree.
Stuff. Yeah.
Really is.
And how about the we've talked about this before, not necessarily a horror movie, but Blue Velvet, the use of in dreams. You hear in dreams.
Oh my God.
Well, I have a story about that, which was after I been to see Blue Velvet. I was running a bath, and the bathroom door was open, and somewhere nearby I had the radio on, so I could hear it. And I'm naked and bent over the bathtub, so I've got a lot of, I'm vulnerable, and I've got a lot of defensible space behind me that I'm not taking care of as I'm putting the plug in the bathtub. And at that moment I hear candy-colored clown they call Sandman, and everything stopped in my head. Total panic seized me, and I've got this internal debate going on, which is, what the fuck is going on? I love this song. What the fuck is going on? Why am I fucking oh shit. and then Blue Velvet came rushing back to me. That it's an amazing example of the use of a beautiful, innocent piece of music that will never be beautiful and innocent again.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
What song is it that it's played in the one X-Files episode that was banned for like 12 years? That episode called Home. It was about the inbred family, and the mother with no limbs was under the bed, and there's this gorgeous song that plays through it. And I want to say Sam Cooke, but it's not Sam Cooke. Is it Johnny Mathis? The Johnny Mathis song, I think, is playing. And god damn it, I can't. It's a shame because it's a beautiful song, but you hear it and you're thinking of the inbred family in the X-Files. Wonderful, Wonderful. Is that what it's called? I think. Yes.
Oh wow, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tom Petty's American Girl.
Well.
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah.
That took on a different context too, didn't it?
You my size 14. Yeah.
And we better not get on to Q Lazarus.
Are you cool with a music question, Matt? I saw in the chat a little earlier.
Of course.
So I saw from Dick Von Zombie Slayer.
He's here.
They want to know what was your favorite Rob Zombie record you played on, and what was your favorite Rob Zombie record that you didn't play on, or White Zombie.
I think favorite record I've played on is probably... Ooh, that's a tough one. I really actually like the new record quite a bit. I just loved how the songs turned out, and I had nothing to do with it other than playing the bass. But as a Rob Zombie appreciator, I thought the songs were fantastic, and they were memorable, and they were as short as they needed to be, and had so much character. So I think that's probably the new record's probably my favorite record that I've played on. Coming up, I loved White Zombie a lot when I was younger. I was early with that band, and in fact, I have a picture of it somewhere, but my junior year art final was a pastel portrait of his old bass player,
Sean.
and yeah, and it was huge, and I gave it to her at the Astro Creep record release signing when they came through Houston. I'm sure she didn't know what the hell to do with it, but she was like, "Oh, thanks, another picture of me." But be careful who you draw, because you might one day have their job in some form. But I loved the Devil Music, their first record for Geffen. I thought was, talk about a cool piece of art, because if you liked bands like Slayer and Danzig and art rock stuff, but you also loved pop culture and you loved film, and the references to film in that record are so plentiful and thick, and musically, like, it's interesting, the compositions, the way the songs were arranged. I've probably played that record more than any Rob Zombie or other White Zombie releases. So
I performed a lot of surgeries on my cassette, with the Scotch tape and the pencil. Listened to it a lot. Always getting snapped in the tape player.
And the artwork was fantastic. It really gave you something to do.
Yes.
Now, around the time, a little bit after your joining Zombie, because you've been with Rob Zombie 15 years now. 2006 you joined it, but you were doing work with Alice around that time. I mean, you have a co-writer credit for Keeping Halloween Alive, and you co-directed the movie, the little brief movie of the 3 tracks from Along Came a Spider, and contributed graphic design for that album as well, I think. I'm assuming Alice must have been a huge influence on you.
Honestly, aside from the musical upbringing I had, he's probably the main reason I got in the business in the first place.
Wow.
I saw the Trash tour when I was 14. I mowed lawns and saved my money, and I bought like 10th row seats for the music hall in Houston. And my brother was supposed to take me to the show, and he was in a cover band, and he took a gig that night last minute, and he called me at like 4:00, and he's like, "I can't take you to the show." And my dad had to take me, bless his heart. Took me to the show, and I'll never forget, the lights went out, somebody lit a joint. It was the first time I smelled burning marijuana. And all these girls around just started taking their tops off, and I was like, "What's happening? Am I supposed to be here?" And Alice came out of this gigantic trash can with a whip and these red pleather pants, and I was like, my head exploded. Like, just thinking about it now, my head still explodes. And I just felt like I saw something from another planet. And every day, every week after that, with my lawn money, I would get my dad to drive me to the mall, and I would buy a different Alice Cooper record. So I started with 90s Alice, or 80s, 89, 90 Alice, but then I went back and I got like greatest hits, and then I started buying like the weird 60s records, and then all this stuff with Bob Ezrin. So he had probably...
Oh, I like early Alice a lot, yeah.
Yeah, he was probably the biggest influence on me. So being able to work for him, we wrote a Halloween song together, and then started us writing more, and we ended up we published another song on his Welcome to My Nightmare record. We wrote a song together called Last Man on Earth. But we also recorded a full album's worth of material that ended up just in the closet, as some records do. I'm hoping one day it sees the light of day, but there's some really, really interesting songs in that batch. But I've had a really fun time working for him over the years. I've made him clothes, I've directed his videos, and made him art. I think I made him lunch once.
How do you describe Rob's process and touring and practicing and playing and the well-oiled machines? From what I observe, watching Alice's social media and people who work for him, it seems like that's how he operates. It's very, very, theatrical.
Yeah. And he's all about the show.
Yes.
He's all of and Rob's the same way. That's the first thing we do when the show's over. We sit around for an hour talking about how to make it better.
Right.
Every night.
That was where we saw you in Dallas. No, not Dallas. Worcester.
Yes,
Worcester, Massachusetts. Rock and Shock, and you, Zombie was touring with Alice.
I don't know if you were with.
That's right.
Were you with them at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that was 2015, something like that. Was it a little bit earlier?
It was earlier than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe 10, 9, something like that.
Yeah, it was 2010.
Right. Okay.
10, 11, around there.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should take some more questions piling up.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, we also have a surprise at some point. Yeah, that we do. I don't know when Matt wants to let it roll, but it's queued up, and I just want to build a little suspense on that for a moment,
Okay.
Suspense has been built.
Cool.
Well, let's take some questions, and then let's jump on and talk about.
This one for me, I don't understand it though. On the Moors asks, Steph, for lack of a better phrase, who's your favorite? And then here we go again with the thing being blanked out.
Oh, we keep getting censored.
I assume you're asking me who my favorite Pinhead is, which is a silly question.
Be honest, dear.
I mean, well, first of all, anyone who's ever heard me talk about it knows that I did not watch Hellraiser movies. I still largely have not seen them.
Tell the people why.
That's interesting.
This is completely weird because Steph is a walking, talking encyclopedia
I'm really not.
of horror movies,
really
especially
not.
80s horror. Yes, you are. But she never watched Hellraiser because
Blue lightning. Blue lightning equals sci-fi. I hate sci-fi. So you see the preview and the blue lightning and the zapping noises. I want nothing to do with it. It's sci-fi.
Interesting.
Yep. And
wow.
People assume that I'm, I must be some sort of
stalked me relentlessly.
stalked
she did.
Pinhead. No.
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 How strange. That's so interesting.
We met at a convention in
Not
Pittsburgh.
really.
But
No. You shouldn't be telling this story anyway.
Shouldn't we?
No.
No. Okay.
We didn't technically meet
No,
at a
we
convention.
didn't. No. But okay.
Around the same time as.
Right.
I didn't know about horror conventions, and a friend of mine was going to a horror convention, which is a totally new concept to me. And I heard you go pay people for autographs, and I said, why the fuck would you do that? What a colossal waste of money.
It's an extremely good question and a very good point, and I can't disagree.
So,
but I'm extremely grateful that a lot of people ignore this advice.
She very excitedly got me an autograph from Tarman, Alan Troutman, from Living Dead, and my words were, why did you just waste your money on this? Thank you, but you just wasted your money. Obviously, I feel quite differently about that now. But no, we met after a convention.
No, well, that's exactly the story I was going to
that's
tell.
The story.
Yes.
But yes,
I was aware when Lena came to my table to get my autograph. I was aware of you.
There was a disinterested
hovering
friend
disinterestedly
in the
back.
I think I was looking at the bootleg porn across the aisle. I was actually. Anyway.
Did you buy any?
No, I bought a documentary about a mortician in Chile. I think it was Chile. And The Dark Side of Oz, which is when they put the soundtrack, the Pink Floyd to Wizard of Oz. That's what I bought. That's what I got.
I've still never seen that. You always talk about it. I've never seen it.
No, it's cool. It's cool. But yeah, Blue Lightning. Not a Hellraiser fan.
Yeah.
Not a Blue Lightning fan. Don't like the sci-fi. Like the old sci-fi. War of the Worlds type sci-fi. Big metal robots type sci-fi.
But there's only one Pinhead for you, baby.
And if I have not watched the movies that my husband was in, why would I watch the later ones that don't have him in? There's the answer to your question on the moors. In theory, he's my favorite Pinhead, of course. But, I would be biased. Yes. Killer Maine says Orozco the Embalmer. That's the DVD I bought.
Oh,
very good.
Okay.
I lent it to my mother, and she never gave it back.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your mom likes that stuff too?
Yeah. She was always watching horror, and she was always watching. You might remember this. Back when Lifetime Channel came out, it was not the Lifetime Channel on Sundays. It was like the Surgery Channel on Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
Really graphic surgeries and like autopsies and shit. My mother would just be sitting there watching them, and I would watch them. So yeah, my mother's weird. Likes
in an ideal world, Steph would have done forensics and
I would have
and worked with Cyril Wecht.
My hero, yes.
Yeah.
Just going to ask why you didn't go into that field. It seems like something you would have really enjoyed.
I'm not disciplined enough to be a proper student, I think would be the answer. And money. I would never have been able to afford to go to school. So, but most of the time I'm a bad student. But, so I'm like an armchair psychologist, forensic psychologist, an armchair.
Yes.
A lab tech.
Doug, I have some Hellraiser questions. Can I ask you a Hellraiser question?
Yes, sir.
Were you being as I found out how much of a Karloff fan you are? Were you aware at the time of how impactful that character was? Like when you read the script, when you were approached about it, did you go, oh, this is, as a Karloff guy, this is next level? Where did it sit with you when you first were approached about it?
It sat with me first and foremost in the context of working with Clive. Clive and I have known each other for more than half a century. We were at high school together in Liverpool, and I met him properly for the first time in rehearsals for the school play. And we did independent indie theatre, messed about with 8mm and 16mm movies through the 70s. Moved from Liverpool to London, started a theatre company called the Dog Company, which ran from 77 to 82, doing original plays by Clive, and I was kind of the lead actor in the company, which wound up around 1982. Clive was at that point giving me handwritten manuscripts of short horror stories, and I remember him saying, I'm trying to write a few horror stories, see if I can make a bit of money out of it. A lot of those stories were the books of blood, so the making a bit of money out of it thing kind of worked. And at some point as well, I read handwritten manuscript of a novella that he'd written called The Hellbound Heart. I had got my equity card, so I'm a proper actor now, and I'm doing repertory theatre around England for about £100 a week. And then 1985, conversation with Clive, which was actually at Jane Wildgoose's birthday party. Jane Wildgoose then, at Clive's invitation, went on to make the Cenobites costumes for Hellraiser. She had done some costuming work for us in the theatre company. And in the middle of this conversation, Clive said, literally, by the way, I'm trying to get a low-budget independent British horror movie together, and I think there's a part in there for you. And I think I, said, oh, well, that's nice. And, the conversation moved on to whatever else we were talking about. But that was the first point that Hellraiser and Pinhead came into my consciousness, though I didn't really know what we were talking about at that point. So part of the context of working with Clive is that it wouldn't have made any difference to me what he was asking me to do. I would have said yes and signed on the dotted line and been there, because it's working with him. No, I had absolutely no idea that of what I was about to do and how it was about to change my life. None whatsoever. I mean, and part of that is that Clive's emphasis on the movie and his emphasis approaching the movie was not on the Cenobites. His focus was on Julia, Claire Higgins' role, because he felt he was creating the first great female horror villain in movies. The Cenobites kind of snuck up on him in that regard. And I'm playing a character with no name, buried in latex, who's on screen for less than 10 minutes, I didn't necessarily have that much to be excited about. And I was being paid union minimum rates to do it. So it was only that I was excited to be working with Clive. It was my first movie. That's exciting. It's exciting to be working in a horror movie. I was excited about the whole makeup process, because we'd done a lot of masking work in the theatre, and this was like an extension of that. But it was just a case of, learn the words, get your head down and do the work. I didn't have any concept of it in my head. If I carried any actor's performance to Hellraiser with me, rather than Karloff, it would be, and it's not really a horror film at all, really, a fantasy film. It would be Jean Marais' performance in Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Consciously in my head, I would have been thinking, I think, more about Jean Marais than about Karloff. But I am a major Karloff fan. You're absolutely right.
Let me ask you this
Wow.
question while you're talking about the movie. Someone says, Pieces the Clown asks, Doug's opinion of how the original movie had American accents dubbed over some of the English accents, because the production team thought it would land better if it were less English.
Nah, well, not really. No, I'll try and keep it short. The Hellbound Heart is written and set in London. Hellraiser is written to take place in London, and when we started filming the movie, it was taking place in London. And that's true for a great deal of the film. While we were shooting the movie, the word had come that New World, Roger Corman's old outfit, who were producing the movie, liked what they were seeing, and they wanted a sequel. And they wanted the sequel to begin right where Hellraiser ended, with Kirsty in the hospital. And they wanted it set in America. So now we've got a problem, because the sequel, which is going to carry on seamlessly from the first film, is now going to be set on a completely different continent to the first film. So there's a degree of backfilling now that has to go on. So Sean Chapman, who played Frank, British actor, played the part with a British accent. He now has to be overdubbed. Kirsty's boyfriend, English, because the idea is that Julia and Larry were in Manhattan. Now they've come to live in Julia's old family home in London. That has to change, so that the idea is the script will just about let you get away with it, that they've left Manhattan and they've relocated to an undisclosed American city. Kirsty's boyfriend was English, so in the movie the idea is that Kirsty has followed her father to London, but he gets overdubbed with an American accent, which makes for a very strange exchange in the scene in the railway when he tries to kiss Kirsty and she says, "Oh no, I was warned about you British guys, especially you British guys with American accents." So it's uneven, and it makes it a bit odd in places. And they didn't overdub the businessmen that Kirsty goes out and trawls the bars to find the businessmen to bring home to.
You said Kirsty.
I'm sorry.
Even I know that's not right.
Sorry, Julia. Meant
right.
She's going out to bring the businessmen back to beat their brains out and feed the blood to skin Frank under the poetic style of writing.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me that with the Hellraiser screenplay, he'd written down into movie ease. So everybody was talking like you'd expect people to talk in the movies, especially in a movie, especially maybe in a 1980s horror movie. And then I got to my stuff, and it felt like Clive was taking the handbrake off, and boom, the poetry flew, and wow. I recognized all that, and I heard it. And there was a character that I had played way back in around 1973 on stage, who was kind of a witch-finder figure. This was a musical, if you will, about a 13th century visionary artist in Bohemia called Hunters in the Snow, named after the Bruegel painting. And I played this character called the Dutchman, who was kind of a witch-finder figure, who barely moved, very still, very, very enclosed. And he had, again, wonderful lines, which I remember particularly always. My body aches, the dull ache past all exhaustion.
Wow.
And when I got to Pinhead's lines for the first time, I thought, oh, it's you in a recycled version. I know you. I remember you.
Wow. Interesting.
I mean, you're immensely kind. I mean, all I can say is I just kind of, I met the work. I met the tone that I was hearing in my head. You can't do any more than that, especially, with a character like Pinhead. What research can you do? Not much. I was lucky that I was able to talk to the creator of the character, who was also going to direct me, and who wrote the lines. It's not often that those three things come together,
That's really, it's so fascinating.
Of what Clive did, I think, is that I've always argued you can take the Cenobites out of Hellraiser altogether, and you have a fairly serviceable, rather dull, but fairly serviceable slasher movie, which was, the soup du jour at the time, with Julia and Frank and Larry, and that triangle is intact, and Kirsty and Frank being resurrected from under the floorboards and needing blood and bringing the victims back and feeding them to Frank and putting Larry's skin on. All of that plot is completely intact. without the Cenobites in it, and it's a contemporary late 1980s slasher movie.
Yeah.
Then Clive drops these things into the middle of it, and in the middle of a 1980s slasher movie, suddenly this is pure gothic.
Yeah.
Just quietly dropped into the attic.
Yeah.
And they're completely out of time. I've always said that you could show an image of the Cenobites to a 7th century monk, and he'd get it.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
And if we're all still around in a few hundred years to still look at those images, they'll still resonate. And again, they're a lot of the reason why the movie doesn't age.
And Steph might take it. Oh no, sorry, please.
Well, I was only going to say in relation to the other characters that you mentioned, Pinhead is in a completely different place. He's not a boogeyman. He's not hiding around the corner in the shadows waiting to jump you when you're not looking. There's a long process that you have to go through to get to him. You have to become aware of the existence of the lament configuration. You have to find one. You have to successfully negotiate to buy it. You have to successfully work out how to open the damn thing. And even then, in Hellbound, Pinhead says it is not, when Tiffany opens the box, he warns the other Cenobites not to touch her because she's completely innocent in her approach to opening the box. And he says, it is not hands that call us, it is desire. It's the motivation.
Right.
And even then, when he gets to you, the first thing he wants to do is stop and have a conversation.
Right.
Before we get to the hooks and chains and the soul-tearing bit and all of that, it's coming. But first of all, he wants to know about the dirty, cobwebby corners in your heart and your head, and that's what he feeds off. And in the first movie, they tell us a lot about themselves without telling us anything about themselves. We're Cenobites. We're explorers in the further regions of experience, and at the end of the movie, you're still going. I would imagine if I'd seen the films, I would still be going, who the fuck were they? Where the fuck did they come from?
Right.
What? Which lends them power, because what we don't know, what we don't understand, is always the most terrifying.
Via blue lightning, Steph, because the blue lightning is actually, to me, symbolically of also what made him scary, because you couldn't just walk into the woods like that. That was almost biblical. That supernatural power, that origin, is what made it so scary to me. And I
like my supernatural without electricity.
Tomato.
Just saying.
Well, the lament configuration wasn't plugged into the mains. I mean, it's
I know, but just the zapping and all that. I have a list of things that put me off of movies, and I'm a very tough critic.
Are we still without the services of the Archangel David?
No, David's here.
Oh, he is?
David?
He's just taking it off.
Here.
David's here. No, we were off again. Something went terribly wrong again. Because we're fucking cursed.
Has the whole thing been down?
It was for a little bit. We're good. God. We're here. We're present. Yeah.
Shit.
Amish horror, somebody's saying. Yeah.
Amish horror.
Yeah, Amish
wow.
Okay.
Oh, I see. No electricity. Yes. And no deodorant.
Yeah. That's horror. Convention on a
that's
Saturday
scary.
afternoon. That's horror.
Scary.
Yes. Why don't you guys talk about what you are working on together?
Well, I want to come on to these things. David, we've only done one giveaway.
Yes.
Do you want to do another one since?
Yeah, we can do another one.
Let's get more of your shit away.
Let's do the shirt I'm wearing, the Black Magic.
That's a cool shirt. I have that one.
Yeah, it's
You
a
do?
really good
I
one.
do.
Why don't I have any of these shirts?
Because you gotta ask.
I think you might have been walking the other way.
You know
I have
people.
one shirt. There, I asked. I didn't ask. I demanded.
This is
can't have that
three
one, 'cause I want
gifted subs. Nice and easy here.
Mm.
That is.
Yeah, it's cool designs.
Giving them away here.
I love the color.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
very cool. Brando did a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. We got one.
Yeah, I don't know if we were talking
Darius.
about the Dead by Daylight thing when we got cut off, but the answer to the question is no, it's not Doug's voice. No, they did not ask him to be the voice.
I did not turn it down. I did not choose this life.
We don't know why they did not contact him, but they did not contact him. It is not his voice.
Nothing to do with it.
No,
I know nothing.
Recorded.
Do not ask me again. What's the internet thing that follows you around, Matt? Is the one I have quite a lot. Like I hated doing Hellraiser, and I only did it for the money and as a favor to Clive and stuff like that. I really wanted to play the mattress delivery guy.
See, someone's gonna come in right as you're saying that. But I heard Doug Bradley say,
Right.
he really, and it gets repeated as fact. These people
Headline.
come and speak. Yeah, just like the person. I mean, no offense to the person who was in the chat talking about the thing, but they speak it as though it is a fact.
Read it on the internet. It must be true.
It's a fact. Doug wanted to be the mattress delivery guy. He hated doing it because he was just a favorite of Clive. He was so good at the makeup. He put it on himself and took it off himself. So which do you have oft repeated rumors?
And it doesn't make any difference how many times you deny it.
Yeah, it'll just go on forever. Ever.
Well, honest, I think the thing I get the most is, which we got out of the way on the show early, was why I go by Piggy D. So that's, I think I'm just gonna print it on a shirt and just wear that shirt. Just just like you.
My most asked question is how long did the makeup take? So I get a shirt saying 3 to 4 hours. There's your answer, people. Don't ask.
You should just print like a photo montage of like you with no makeup going through each process with just one line that says 4 hours.
1 hour in, 2 hours in. So
let's talk about your exciting project.
Yes, well, let's. So first of all, you've been part of Rob Zombie Band for 15 years now, which so I guess like you're kind of become like your day job, and I assume you would have been out on the road with Rob supporting the new album if a certain virus hadn't, I assume, interfered with those plans.
There's a virus. I didn't know. I wasn't aware.
Oh well, we don't have time to go into it now, but yeah, you should buy a mask or two, and I don't mean the horror kind, though they might work. But anyway, I'll contact you tomorrow and let you know.
Fill me in.
I will. But I think I'm right in saying about 2017 you launch into a new musical project. Have I got the year right? Which is the arrival of well, I think that's the first time you release anything. 2017. It was probably birthing before that with Ash Costello from New Year's Day. The Haxans arrive.
Mm-hmm. We've been a band, I think 8 years now. And it took us, we had a little gestation period there where we were just kind of like writing songs and hanging out and figuring out our vibe. It's the musical equivalent of two kids left home alone with a tape recorder and no one watching, which has made it endlessly fun because the project is completely unaware of modern music and is really, honestly, to a point, unaware of what both of our day jobs are. There's no influence from anybody else, musically or aesthetically. It's it's a perfect organic combination of two people celebrating the crap they like. And that's I think that's why we're still doing it, because we're certainly both busy doing other things, but we somehow just want to make the time to lock ourselves in the room with the tape recorder, and it's like finger painting, and there's no lines you have to stay in, and that's so cool, because I see like a lot of musicians nowadays are so hyper aware of their surroundings and the projects their friends are in, and oh, this guy produced my band's record, so I really want him to produce our record. So because I really like those drum sounds, or I like these production elements, or I like this songwriting. There's none of that. This is homemade stuff. This is popsicle sticks and glue, and that's what's so fun about it. Because we don't have anybody going, you should really write a song like this to get on the radio. Fuck all that. Like, no one cares. Like, no one's even thinking about that. So that's
great. And it comes across. It sounds like you're having fun.
We are.
A few singles and Party Monsters. Yes, the album with a few covers on that. I mentioned that I was shaving, and Steph stuck her head around the bathroom door and said, "Who's doing a cover of Party Time?" I said, "It's Matt, it's the Haxans." So that's one of Steph's favorite horror movies.
Probably my favorite.
Well, that's cool, because that's exactly the corner that the band's sitting in. Like, that's one of mine too, and I talk about a movie that cracked my brain open. It had comedy, it had zombies, it had punk rock girls. Ever. Yeah, the best soundtrack ever. And that's we mentally, when we're working, we're sitting in that graveyard on that day, waiting for the sun to go down. That's the happy zone for this band. So.
That's fantastic. And it's developing an organic life beyond, because now you are a poet. And just to confuse everything, you're now also going by the name of Count D. Matt sent me this wonderful book, trying to get that glare off it, which is called All My Friends Are Creeps, and it's spooky poems for kids. Would that be fair to say?
That's accurate.
Beautifully illustrated. But I'm not going to. You can pronounce the name, because I can barely see it. We're slightly dimly lit here.
Julia Yakovla. Yeah, she lives in Ireland, and we met on the internet after a few failed attempts to get the book illustrated. It took years, and trying to work with people I had relationships prior to, and none of them worked out. And one day I was on Instagram, of all things, and I found this girl's art, and I said, "Oh my God, I wonder if she would get this." And yeah, you just do that sniff test when you're meeting people, and you're like, "You really like spooky stuff," and you're like, like someone with Steph would say, "My favorite movie is Return of the Living Dead." And you go, "Okay, we can be friends." And that's you kind of wander through life trying to find the people that resonate with the same junk you do. And we hit it off, and she, in record time, I sent her a set of poems, and I said, "Whatever's going to fall out of your brain is perfect." And that's exactly
great illustrations. And it's published by Rare Bird, available now, I assume.
It is.
And they're great. And looks like I'm going to be doing an audiobook recording of them.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Well, I'm excited. You asked me to do it. I'm going to be talking to Tyson, I think, in the next day or so, and we'll get that moving. But But this is not a new venture for you, it turns out. You kind of always wanted to be a poet.
I did. I had my first poem published when I was 9 in the school newspaper. It was called "There's a Monster in My Closet," and my
In this, shouldn't it?
yeah, I tried to make it work. It still needed a bit more editing, and spell checking. My mom took me to there was a fellow named Jack Perlutsky who wrote some great Halloween books for kids when I was a kid, early 80s, and she took me to a in-store book signing, and it was like going to a record signing. And I loved this book, and I'd loved this book for a couple of years, and then the guy who wrote it's in front of me, and I'm like, this is so cool. And I always kind of knew that it was a safe place to express myself. And again, kind of like the Haxans, where there wasn't anyone breathing over your shoulder telling you to stay in the lines. And that's kind of my happy place, is not staying in the lines. And as soon as it was done, I just heard your voice, like hovering around when I would read things back. Mud on My Shoe was one of the ones that I was like, I just can't get Doug's voice out of my head. Like, it's you bring an eloquence and a terrifying sense of foreboding all at the same time, and there's not a whole lot of people that can do that. I don't really know of anyone else that can do that. And going back to what we were saying about what you brought to the Pinhead character, so I'm beyond honored to have you not only even read the book, but do the audio version of it, because it just completes the circle for me, 100%.
Well, I'm excited. So
Very exciting.
I think we can make it happen, and we shouldn't tempt fate on it, but maybe All My Friends Are Creeps will have a life beyond being just a book, too.
It is well on its way to doing so, and we're very excited about it. We've got an amazing team of creative people, and yourself included, working on something really special. So I can't wait to talk more about it.
Okay.
Next episode, we'll get into it.
I'm just noticing we're getting close to the 2-hour mark.
Yeah. Wow.
Do we want to do another giveaway? Apparently Matt has a surprise.
Yeah, we can do a giveaway, and then we'll lead it right into the surprise.
Okay.
So since we've been talking about zombies, a good bit this stream, this is going to be our next giveaway here, is this wonderful zombie tee. Love the color. The purple and the green just complements it so well.
Reminds me of Joker colors.
Another Brando special there.
Yes.
Nice.
Sweet.
All right, so that's going to be 3 subs. So 3 gifted. I'm typing that as well. I don't know why I'm saying it at the same time. So 3 gifted subs on that will win that tee. And you're going to just reach out to us on Instagram, and then we will be good to go.
Cool.
And now I think, I don't know if Matt wants to introduce what's about to play on the screen.
Are we at a wrap? Is that kind of the end of our time?
I figure we can show this surprise if it's a good time, and then we can keep going for a little bit. I mean, it's entirely up to you guys.
We have no clock on us, really.
Well,
you've already given us a lot of your time.
Oh, I don't want to burn you guys out. So however long you want to go is fine with me.
No, we don't want to hold you hostage.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Good.
I mean, I can set it up now if you'd like. The Haxans have been in the studio and working today and all this week, and we going through our repertoire, we thought, what could we show our appreciation for Doug and his body of work in 3 minutes or less, and so we decided on our favorite Rocky Erickson song is a song called "I Think of Demons," and we recorded. We've never done a live stream anything before. So we thought our first one, we wanted to do something special for you, just because we love you so much and we appreciate everything that you do and how kind you are to our community and the time you spend with everybody. And you're just you're endlessly interesting and kind, and we love you so much and just wanted to do something special for you, sir. So
you're going to see it on your screen, Doug and Steph. It'll probably be like that 6-second delay. So just keep an eye on that, and I'm going to cue it up right now.
Alrighty.
Doug, this is for you.
We'll probably just have to unmute the browser.
Awesome.
Bravo.
Very, very cool.
Wow. Wow. I'm beyond humbled and
So you guys just recorded that?
honored. Really.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. So thanks to everybody that helped us turn it around. David and Vicente and Kevin and Wade, our drummer.
Right.
Awesome.
Wow. Thank you, and pass my thanks on to Ash. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That's fantastic.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think you're speechless.
Well, I am slightly. I mean, I'm a fan of Rocky's, and his story is such a powerful one and a moving one and a difficult one and a sad one and a joyful one. Yes. Fuck. Well, thank you.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Now, of course, it raises questions. I'm afraid I'm one of those people who always has questions. So we're seeing there. You and Ash and the drummer. There's a lot going on. Sorry, I didn't catch the drummer's name. Did you say Wade?
Wade, yeah, correct.
Right. But you're playing lead guitar there in the video. Are you playing all the guitars and there's keyboard going on as well? Are you multi-instrumentaling on this?
I am. Yeah, we use we like to keep a small footprint as a band and not mess with the chemistry, the musical chemistry too much. And a drummer adds just enough for us. So it's kind of an odd way to roll, but we like it that way, and it keeps the output of the band kind of pure to the fun and who we are. As I was saying, like, you find that person that you just resonate with that likes the same junk you do. You bring in 2-3 other people, that chemistry changes, and
right.
And creative input's great in certain situations. And I've been in bands where everybody wrote songs and everybody brought things in. The Zombie Band was like that for a long time, and where everybody kind of made a stew together. But it changes the sound, and it changes a lot of times the intent of why you're making the art in the first place. And we're not trying to be anything other than just who we are on any given day in any moment. If it's a Rocky Erickson song, it's a Rocky Erickson song. And if you don't know it or you think it's our song or whatever, then great. But it's as honest as a representation of who we are as humans that we can be.
Sounds
keeping
great.
it.
And is the Haxans going to be a fixed band in terms of personnel, or is it going to be you and Ash and people constellating around? You would have been out on the road if it hadn't been for that virus that you don't know about that I'm going to explain to you tomorrow. You had quite a lengthy tour lined up, and you were coming into Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah, that was going to be a big coming out party for us. Like, we were really excited since we played one show here locally, and we saw that people kind of got what we were trying to do. It made us want to do it more, and it made us want to share that side of us even more. And so we were pretty sad that tour had to go away, but it's really just the two of us. And this is Wade's first gig with the band. We're working on some local stuff now for the fall, but even finding a drummer's tough. Finding a drummer that's like, yeah, I like Rocky Erickson and the Misfits and Party Time and Plastic Halloween Masks and all that stuff. Like, just finding somebody that really wants to be there for the right reasons. It seems like it's getting harder and harder these days. Everyone's just like, where's the next gig? Where's the next gig? Where's the next gig? And it just becomes an industry of guys looking or girls looking for gigs. And that's not what this band is.
They don't want to commit to being part of a band.
It's like they want to commit to being a part of a band as long as the band is like trying to climb some ladder. And this band's so not that. Like, it could very well exist as a studio project and just me and Ash, with a tape recorder, like I was saying earlier. So it's keeping it just the two of us and kind of handling the production and the musical elements ourselves is just where we're at, and it works for us. And the pandemic was really kind to us from a creative standpoint. We've now bagged at least 2 full records of material that we're sitting on. Hopefully, which it's a little bit too early to say, but I'm hoping something will be out before the end of the year. But we did nothing. We did nothing but output the whole time. It was like a faucet we just couldn't turn off. So
there's definitely a lot of creativity coming out of this time period for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And
sorry, go on.
No, please.
Well,
it was challenging.
Yeah. Hopefully the postponed tour will reemerge maybe next year. I guess you have to work that around commitments to Rob Zombie and New Year's Day, so it's a complicated juggling process, I assume.
It really is. It's an odd shaped peg of a band that it's almost like the jello on the plate that just has to fit into the cracks of all the other things, you know. But what's been really interesting is we've been pushing ourselves to become more of a self-sufficient entity and be able to do stuff like this where we can go into a studio and just record ourselves. Like that's, you know, 2 takes maybe of what. So we've been really putting ourselves through the mill of just like doing the work to be a live functioning entity in whatever form we can do it, with touring or no touring.
Make sure you put Pittsburgh back on the list when you are.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Don't go to the South Hills though; it's a pig to get to.
South
no
Hills.
pun intended.
You know what I've never done, and I've always wanted to do. But there's one thing in Pittsburgh that I've never been able to do, and it's in Evans City, which is where the Night of the Living Dead.
Well, it's not technically in Pittsburgh. It's about an hour out from Pittsburgh.
That's on my bucket list. I just want to go roll around in it. Like I've been trying to get there.
Oh, okay.
I've been trying to get there for years, and I just haven't had a day off with enough time to get up there.
In Lawrenceville.
There is a good cemetery in Lawrenceville. But yeah, Evans City, I think they rebuilt the chapel a few years ago. I've actually never been to. We've driven past it, the Evans City Cemetery. But, you know, and then you have the very unexciting Monroeville Mall.
Right.
From Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
That people get very excited about, and
until
then get to
they
the mall.
see it.
It's nothing like it.
Until they see the Orange Julius is closed, and they're like,
Yeah.
There's nothing for me here.
Nothing's there anymore.
No.
It's a pretty big letdown. Yeah. I avoid it like the plague. No, that's very close to us, the mall.
Is it?
Yes. So, do we want to? I know you had 5 giveaways, David. Are we gonna do all 5?
Yeah, we can do another. This one here is gonna be. Did we do the Reaper? Yeah, no, we didn't do the Reaper. I don't think so. Oh, here's a good one.
Okay.
Obviously, Count D in here himself. This is the Bloodsucker giveaway. It's a nice tee.
Oh, that is a cool one.
So that's going to be 3 gifted subs. Super simple. You win that tee. You message us on Instagram. And
if you can't win the tee, you can go buy it on Horror Hub, right?
That you can. HorrorHubMarketplace.com.
Okay.
I love this Carl Casey music in the background. It's so good.
I can't even hear it.
Oh, we can't hear it.
I'll have to
Oh yeah, I hear it.
But lots of positive comments about the song. Obviously, lots of people begging you to come to their town on your tour.
All right, woohoo! Somewhere to go.
Yeah.
50 cities, man.
You know, this shit is never gonna end, and
that's fucking great. I mean, it does. I was going to say, I mean, that everything you were just saying about the nature of the band, that comes over in spades in that video. It sounds so fresh.
It's really good.
And it looks like you're having fun. You know?
Would your introduction to Rocky would that have been Return to Living Dead?
Actually, it was. And I'm from Texas originally, and he's very very beloved in Texas.
When we were doing Texas Frightmare in 2014, we wound up being introduced to a band called Ghost.
I'm at my table on the convention floor, and suddenly everything stopped, and they walked in
costume,
in full costume, and I didn't really. I think we were aware of what the band looked like.
Sort of.
We kind of thought they were a
Right.
and so we avoided. And they came to my table, and they're all lined up alongside of me having photographs taken, and I'm kind of, I don't really know what's going on, and they're whispering to me from behind their masks.
But we were approached by the organizer of the convention. There's a band called Ghost in town. Came to the table after they left. We're going to go see them tonight at the House of Blues. And I don't like to go anywhere after shows, or at all, really, ever, where people are, social situations are involved. For some reason, we agreed to go see them.
Well, I think we went to our room.
Yeah, we did.
We looked them up on YouTube, and we were kind of, oh, wait,
yeah,
what?
I assumed they were going to completely suck, because they looked cool, so obviously they're going to suck.
Right, right.
So we went to our hotel room, we listened, oh my god, so we decided to go. Bill Moseley from Manson,
yes.
tag group of people. But I don't know how the conversation started, but we started talking to somebody there whose dad was like best friends with Rocky, and we're talking about how Texas, how much Texas embraced Rocky Erickson. And I didn't really know,
and Ghost have always included if you have Ghosts on their set list. I don't think they've ever played a gig without playing that song.
Yeah. Right. Going back to the album thing, when I used to go to Amoeba on Sundays, which was the big record store here. That became kind of my church on Sundays when I first moved to LA. And every time when I was home, every Sunday I was at Amoeba, just wandering around for hours, and I would just buy stuff based on the art. And the first Ghost record I bought based on the art. I went, oh wow, somebody gets it, and I bought the CD and put it in my car, and I was like, oh, this is. And I didn't see the band live until they came through on the second record with that EP with the Rocky Erickson song with if you have Ghost. And that was the moment where I went, okay, I really love this band, because first of all, you know who Rocky Erickson is. That already puts you in the cool club with me. But there's so much love in their rendition of that song. The production's so good, the arrangement's so good, the vocals so good. They could have just schlepped through it, and they didn't. It's such a stellar recording. I went, okay, not only do you know who Rocky Erickson is, you really, 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 really care about him, and you care about his body of work if you pulled this off. And that got me out of the house to go to the show. And then I saw the band live, and I was like, new favorite band.
Yeah.
It's an experience, isn't it? Seeing them live. It's great.
Yeah.
We've been all over the place to see them.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And what you say is true of all their covers. They do really, really good covers. Yes. I mean, my only regret is when we saw them at the House of Blues, we'd agreed to go and talk to Jason, their merch guy, because he was a big fan of Steph's art and wanted to talk to her about buying some stuff. And he said, really, really the only good time I have to have this conversation is during the gig, because that's when nobody's bothering me. So a few songs in, we left and went downstairs, talked to Jason, and then went back up for the rest of the gig. And during that time, I missed their cover of Here Comes the Sun.
Oh,
And they've never
And they
played
never
it live
did
again.
At least not at any show that we were at. So
I
And
love
it seems
Jason.
like such an unlikely song for them to be
Yeah.
doing. And if you said to me, goes to doing cover of a Beatles song, I would have gone, what, really?
well, they
But
cover ABBA.
I could have come up with a long list of likely candidates. Here Comes the Sun would not have been among them, I don't think.
Right? Yeah, you're right. How
Um,
well, how much of a wonderful human is Jason, by the way? Just he's one of the best.
Completely
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just talking to him the other day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's come to be a good friend.
The cover of the Pet Shop Boys, "It's a Sin," I think is magnificent as well.
Absolutely.
Avalanche, Leonard Cohen's Avalanche.
Yeah. Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Amazing. So who the hell knows when they'll be back on the road and we'll get
Well.
to see them again. And
Well, and Steph has a theory about this because.
well, when we saw them in October of 2019, we were talking to Tobias after the show, and the last album was all about the plague. And Tobias said, we're gonna take 2020 off and we're gonna work on a new album. So you write an album about the plague and then you plan on taking a year off. It's pretty suspect.
Just as the entire world took the year off.
Right.
So theoretically, last year he was working. I don't know how everything changed in the face of everything changing last year, but that was his plan, was to take last year off for a new album.
How are you feeling about Monsterpalooza?
A little nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of stuck on this album. You remember when Alice Cooper put out Schools Out in '74, and it came with the school. It came inside the school desk, and it had the panties on the record. If Tobias's record came with a plague, like where do you go after that? Like what do you do? I think, yeah, Monsterpalooza. We're actually trying to make an appearance there. But being an indoor thing, I'm nervous about it. It's.
Well, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He
I
is.
think he has a
And we think he's a bit of a
precautions.
germaphobe, so.
Good.
Yeah, no, which is a good thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
It really is.
That's where we actually saw you in the flesh last, was Monsterpalooza.
Yeah.
And somebody on the chat asked if you were going to be in California anytime soon.
Well, that is the theory.
That is
when
the
is
theory.
that? Late.
No, beginning
October,
October.
yes.
Second weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
Who
That's
knows?
in,
Who knows?
at the Marriott Hotel in Burbank,
No.
right across the street from the Bob Hope Airport. So,
Mm-hmm.
And it's the one show I actually look forward to, and it'd be a bummer
if we
can't
did,
go.
if at the moment we're doing it, we have no reason to suppose at this point that we won't be doing it. But if we change our minds, you will all know about it. Otherwise, be happy to see any of you there.
Yes.
Are people still around in the chat, or has
There
everybody
are.
gone to bed?
They're still hanging out, but decreased numbers.
Okay.
It's getting late in the UK.
Yeah.
Well,
It's been a long one.
we've taken a lot of your time this evening, Matt,
Yes.
and it's been an absolute blast. And
Oh,
I
so
can't begin
fun.
to thank you enough.
You have anything you want to get out there? Websites?
Yeah, you can go to party. You can go to you can go to partymonsterclub.com. That's kind of the Haxans Playhouse. We have some games up there. We like making video games too. So that's something we've got. But we have something special planned for October, so you can keep your eyes on partymonsterclub.com and hopefully
And how about the new cover? Are you going to post that anywhere for people to be able to listen to, or is that just a one-time sort of exclusive thing?
the one you saw tonight?
The song is on Party Monsters, right? Is it?
Yeah, the song's on the record.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we'll do with the video. We made that one specifically for you. So maybe
it's mine. It's all mine. Nobody else is having it. Go away.
You can do with it what you want.
Cool.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This is such a fun hang, and I love you both so much, and appreciate you both so much. And
sorry about our technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We're still, we
Oh,
don't
no.
know anything about it, depending on, other people and good weather. Had a lot of really shitty weather, knocking out people's power all the time. So but everybody who stuck around, thank you for sticking around and forgive us our growing pains.
Thank everyone. We'll be back next week. I think it's an open forum.
Just us. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to be doing. Us a week,
live
and then
Q&A, and Steph and I babbling.
Great.
Talking shit on some people.
And thank you, Davey.
I guess,
thank
you, baby David.
The Archangel David. Yes.
And I guess you guys will keep everybody posted as to your progress on the book.
We will. I think I'm going to talk to Tyson, I think, in the next couple of days and get the audio book part of it rolling.
Fantastic.
Very exciting.
I'm so honored. So honored.
Posting about it.
Thank
you again. Steph just said to me, "Hey, Matt, the bassist from Rob Zombie's band, he's written a book of poems and he'd like you to read." No, I know. You don't talk like that ever. That's me. That's my voice. And I kind of said, "Oh, okay," and I put it on the pile, and then, a couple of days later, I picked it up and went,
"Oh, it's actually good.
That's really nice. So sad. Wow, that's cool." So,
thank you.
It's all good. Matt, we'll let you go. No, I have one more question to ask you. At the back of All My Friends Are Creeps,
yes.
In your acknowledgements, you acknowledge your furry children, which include Ziggy. What sort of animal is Ziggy?
Ziggy is a poodle mixed with a Bichon Frise, I believe it is. We've got 5 animals in the house, 2 cats, 3 dogs. They're all rescues from a local shelter here, and all very distinct personalities. Cat Pee-wee, and
we have a Ziggy.
Do you?
Do.
What type of animal?
He's bigger than yours, Ziggy. He's a 60-pound long-haired German Shepherd.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
How old is Ziggy?
He is 7.5.
Oh.
Yeah, he's getting old.
He is. Well, yeah.
Does Ziggy sleep in the bed?
No, he's
kind
not
of big
that.
for that.
You have to coax him up onto things.
He's not.
Yeah.
Not that
Most people spend time telling their dogs to get off the furniture. He's terrified of fireworks
and thunder.
And thunder.
So
really
he'll come up
upsets
next to
him.
me. I'm his emotional support person, so he'll come up onto the couch when something terrible's happening.
I'm just the guy who feeds him and puts his shit in bags as far as he's concerned, but Steph's the emotional support animal.
Yes, thunder and fireworks. Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, he's a Ziggy, and is yours named after Bowie?
No, Ziggy's actually the only pet that we have that came with a name.
Okay.
And I saw him on a rescue Instagram page, and I said, I'm going on tour. That dog's there when I get back from tour. That dog's mine. And he was still there, and we got him.
And had he originally been named for Ziggy Stardust? I guess so.
I guess so. He kind of has this funny smile. He kind of looks like the old Ziggy cartoon. You remember?
Oh, yes. Big nose. Yes.
Yeah, he kind of has the same face, the same smile. So it's very fitting. That's so cool. I didn't know he was a Ziggy.
We had a moment with our Ziggy because we had a short list of names, including Ziggy, and when we were going to get him, which was a few hours drive away,
4-hour drive
from here, we were still discussing and we had the radio on, and we have to go up over the Laurel Highlands to get to where we were going, and we lost the AM radio signal. It just kind of went away. We carried on talking, and then as we were coming down the other side, the radio signal slowly came back up. And as it came back up,
This is no lie either.
when Ziggy played guitar, was the first thing we clearly heard on the radio. And
We're like, well, that settles it.
I think we know what we're calling him.
How cool! How cool!
But you have another member of your furry animal who is named after another of Steph's
Is Pee-wee named
all-time
after
heroes.
Yes.
And Pee-wee's a girl. Pee-wee's a girl calico, and we have a black cat named Rocky.
Aw.
My wife was in the bath one day, and she said, "I think I want to go to the animal shelter." And she was going through a Rocky Balboa phase at the time. My wife was. It became She just got on a kick, and she's like, she took boxing lessons, the whole thing. And she was in the bathroom, and she said, "Can we go to the animal shelter today?" And I said, "Yeah. What do you want to do?" And she's like, "I think I want to get a cat and name after somebody in the Rocky movies." And I'm like Uncle Paulie? And she's like, "Yeah, something." And we walked in, and I swear the first thing I saw was a black cat in a cage with the name Rocky on the thing. And I went,
Well, there you go.
"Well, there you go." Yeah. Oh, here's Ziggy, by the way. I don't know if you can.
Aww. Oh, he does look like the cartoon. He does have that little mouth. Yes, he does. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
Thank you.
I saw those. I saw those in the acknowledgements and thought, "Oh, that's amazing."
But
Yes.
everybody does need a black cat, I think, too. Everyone
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, you kind of decided you needed a black cat.
I needed a black
cat. You went and picked one out of a litter in a trailer park somewhere.
Nice.
And she's kind of like a trailer park cat.
She is. Her new one is a little rough.
Called Pluto.
Yeah.
After black cat.
Oh.
She has both eyes. But anyway.
Well, so this time we'll let you go. And once again, thanks, Matt. I can't tell you what a great time this has been.
Yes,
and thank you again for the video. I'm just blown away by that. It's amazing.
Cool.
Thank you.
And hopefully see you soon in, real life.
We can bump fists and
we'll hopefully if you guys make it to California in October, we'll hang out.
Yeah, definitely.
for sure.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Right.
Thank you so much. Much
Good
love.
Good night. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.